Welcome to LSC. It's Sports Time. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have with me Ivan Thomas, who is a head basketball coach over at Kecoughtan High School. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure is all mine, because I got to talk to you and see, I knew you've been all around, been in Illinois and northern, but I didn't know you grew up in the South Side.
Hey, I'm right from here, right from Norfolk, Virginia, the 757 area, as they said. I just went away to school and then, returned home maybe after a 15-year lapse, came back to this area.
Right.
And so I'm happy to be here and some good basketball.
Well, we're glad to have you back. You're doing a good job over at Kecoughtan. But let's talk a little bit about you growing up, because just like all other kids, you played a lot of sports growing up and played rec ball.
Yeah, I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia. I grew up out Bowling Park area, Tidewater Park, before my parents moved to the Norview area. And then my mom, just like with anything else, she actually taught me to play sports, got me involved in recreation baseball, recreation football, recreation basketball. My brother, Lawrence Thomas, as well. And so we were just always involved. She always said that athletics was a tool to figure out what you want to do with your life. It taught leadership and things of that nature. So she actually taught me how to play baseball. She taught me how to play basketball. She was my rec league coach for a while before, she let me go off and then play with other people. But yeah, I grew up playing in the Azalea Garden Baseball League, Oakmount, when we moved out, Norview, Oakmount Recreation Center. I grew up playing under those guys and learning the game of basketball that way.
Well, having your mother coach is unusual, because usually it's my dad that does the coaching, but that's unusual, but it's also great.
Yeah, my mom, she's if you come to any of my games now, she still follows. She's very active in sports. She was our biggest cheerleader as well. She was our biggest critic as well. She was just always involved in my life. And my brother's life. She just makes sure that we had a strong inner circle around us that just kept us involved to make sure we didn't get into the negative things that were out there.
It's great to have parents that stay involved, and we're going to talk a little more about that when we get later on in the interview. But then you went to Norview High School, and you just played basketball and baseball.
Yep. When I went in the Norview area, I went to Norview Middle School, and then I graduated from middle school. Of course, went to high school, and then just focused on basketball and baseball. I was a pretty good baseball player as well. I actually made the baseball team varsity as a freshman, as a baseball player.
And what position did you play?
I played first base. I pitched. I played just about all the positions. I enjoyed hitting, though.
Okay. You were a hitter.
Yeah, I was a hitter. I was a hitter, but I was pretty good. I had pretty good hand and eye coordination.
Right.
So I was pretty good at the sport. But I loved basketball. That was my passion. And
it's funny you say that, because I've had Anton Bethea in here, who is the defensive back for the Colts, and he still loves basketball better than he does anything else. I said, once you get a passion for basketball, it's hard to let go of it. What position did you play in basketball?
I played probably the 2, 3, and 4. I Coach Young, I played for Ed Young, who's actually at Nasman River. He was my high school coach.
How about that?
Yeah, he always said that I probably had a better understanding of the game than I could play the game. He always told me that my mind could do, if only my body could do what my mind wanted. But I've always wanted to be a coach. I enjoyed the actual putting things together, planning things together, and the passion of the game.
So did you find yourself doing that when you were playing?
I did.
You was thinking, if I was a coach, this is what I would do?
I did. Even as a player in high school, I did. If I was a coach, or I would run this, or I would do this, or I would watch college basketball, and I would look at the different things of other players, and I could pick up on what the team was running and things of that nature. But I always just enjoyed motivating and getting my teammates to play better. I think I was a captain, and I wasn't a starter, and so, but I didn't have anything.
Vocal.
Very vocal guy, very in tune to, helping guys get over, different hurdles to help them get their best, output, even as a young person.
All right, then you went to VCU, but you're a lot like me. You have put yourself through, so you don't play sports.
Right. I actually did. I went to VCU, and when I graduated from Norview High School, considered playing baseball. Actually had an opportunity to play. I saw the amount of time and that I would have to put in, and that I did put in, and I was determined not to. I started off as a pre-med major. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, so it led to a lot of time, and I decided to focus on academics, and so that was my sole focus. And so I just went to school and focused on that. But I eventually switched my major and got back into athletics.
Okay. And talking about the academics, you ended up with a couple of degrees.
Yep.
And they were in what?
Sociology. Then I got a master's in educational leadership and counseling. I got my first master's at Virginia Commonwealth in counseling, guidance and counseling. And then I went on and got another master's from George Mason University in educational leadership.
Oh, so. Couple master's degrees to go along with it. Okay. And then you go to Illinois, but we have to understand why you went to Illinois.
Well, I married, my wife got married, and she went to Northwestern Medical School. So when I got married, I decided to move out there. And while she attended medical school for 4 years or 3 years, we got married, and I worked as a counselor in Schaumburg, Illinois. And that's when I started my coaching career as well.
And you started off as an assistant coach under a coach?
Bob Williams at Schaumburg High School. We actually, he taught me a lot. We actually won we were the first suburban school in Chicago to win a state title. We actually beat Eddie Curry Jr., who was a professional that year for the state title. And in Chicago, it was interesting. They put all the classes together in divisions, the city schools and everything, and you kind of just
doesn't make any difference where you are.
You just kind of battle it out. So it was a great accomplishment for Schaumburg High School, which was a suburban school out in Illinois, to win it. And it was a great time then, and that's when I really just got this coaching bug.
And it was that when you started picking up some of the philosophy? I know you picked up some philosophy from your high school coaches and from your mother and from everything, but it really started sinking in when you were in Illinois? Yeah,
most of my basketball philosophy comes from Coach Williams in terms of how he taught the game of basketball, X's and O's. He preached defense first, and that's a component of how I practice the game and I teach the game. Is I'm a defensive guy. I'm a defensive coach. Mostly man-to-man defense, and that's our principles. A lot of it came from Midwest basketball. Dick Bennett. I learned from him, and that's one of the guys that we often talked about. Went to his camps. A lot of just Midwest, basketball, coming off screens and moving the ball, 5-man motion offense.
Well, now I grew up in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Big Ten is more physical than the ACC. ACC is more finesse, if you will. There was a high school similar to the Big Ten in that there was a lot of contact.
Right. It was much more contact, and that's the way he taught me how you negate talent. We didn't have a lot of talent, but if you can play physical, and if you can play man-to-man defense and be disciplined, he said discipline and physicality can help equal the balance of talent or having less talent. And that's what we did. We didn't have as much talent, but we were very disciplined and we were very physical, and that helped us make that run. Now, when you combine physicality, discipline, and talent, now you got something.
You got something really good then. All right, then after that, then you were there for 3 years, and then you moved to the D.C. area.
Yeah, moved to the D.C. area.
And that was because?
My wife. So
she's going to Johns Hopkins?
She landed her residency in urology at Johns Hopkins. That was an 8-year decision that she decided to be and study at one of the toughest places to learn, which is Johns Hopkins. So, we moved to the D.C. area, and then, I started my career coaching at Edison High School. Became the head coach there at Edison High School, and we turned that program around in 3 years. Won the district actually the second year. We actually went undefeated in that district in the regular season. The second year we were there. Before I took the job at T.C. Williams High School.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where I first ran into you. Mm-hmm. You're at T.C. Williams, and was that your third year at T.C. Williams?
The third year, yes, that was the final. The third year was which we won the state title, which is 2008. Was my
and
third
beat a team that I know, Bethel High School.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to beat a very good team, Bethel High School. It just happened to be, our night that night.
Well, you guys played awful well that night. You really did.
We had one of the better showings, but we actually played well throughout the whole state tournament that year. Right. I mean, we won by an average of 15 or 20 points per game, and basically it was done on the defensive end. I remember us beating Kings Fork, a very good Kings Fork team. We beat a very good Petersburg team, and we beat an outstanding Bethel High School team. But it was done on a defensive end. It kind of goes back to that philosophy. We were very physical, we were very tough, and we were very disciplined, and we had a little bit of talent too. So we mixed them in.
But you also did something that is unusual. You went undefeated 3 years in that conference. I don't care what conference you're on. 3 years undefeated in your district is pretty good.
Well, yeah, we started something there at TC Williams. Like the kids just bought into the passion of how to play, working hard. We spent a lot of time in the gym, and when we first took over that program, our coaching staff, the kids just bought in, and so we kind of had not necessarily overnight success, but it just it happened like so quickly. And the first year we went undefeated, and then the second year we went undefeated, which had never been done. And then the third year, we went undefeated. And so for 3 years, we had not lost a district game, and that was just unbelievable. Every night, the kids, were composed and battling, because at some point in time, they wanted to continue.
Yeah.
And actually, it continued for another year. After I left with my assistant coach, Coach King, who took over, they continued it for one more year. So in actuality, they had 4 years of undefeated in the district, and 4 years of being, 3 years of being undefeated in the region. We only had one regional loss, 2 regional losses my whole 3 years there. One was to Scotty Reynolds, and the other one was to my former high school, which was Edison High School.
Okay.
That was the only 2 schools that beat us in the northern region.
And then you come down to Peninsula, getting closer to home.
Yeah.
But that reason is you.
Well, once again, in 2008, after winning the state title, my wife was, she finished her 8-year residency, and she had an opportunity to join Riverside and Williamsburg, and become a urologist here in this area. And they courted her for many months, and so finally she, it all kind of lined up, and I just said, okay, fine, we can leave, and so we left and moved to the Hampton Roads area, and then I landed at Kickinton High School.
And you talk about being in the right place, right time. Right. They're looking for a coach.
Right. It just happened to be, and it's funny because the guy who was the coach there, which for a year, was actually my assistant at TC Williams. He coached my JV team for 1 year before he took the head coach at Kickinton, which was Joel Hines, was the head coach there for a year. Well, he was my assistant at TC Williams for a year before he went on to be the DOB at ODU. And so when he went to take that,
opened that right up.
It just opened right up. I was actually planning to sit out for a while and just, focus on some other things, and this kind of opened up, and I talked to Coach Williams and Coach Boo. He said, yeah, it'll be, they probably need you to, help turn them around. So he kind of pushed me to, take the job, and I did, and it's worked out.
Talk a little bit, this is something we hadn't talked about, but the talent that you had up in Northern Virginia and the talent you find down here in the 757, how would you compare it?
Well, the talent is much more greater down here in the 757, and you can tell by the amount of state titles that have come from this area. I think we broke the cycle in 2008 because we were the first Northern Virginia team to win a state title in 26 years.
Right.
And then most of the title winners came from this area, and they haven't had a state title winner since then, since the 26-year drought.
Well, they lost a good coach too.
Right. But there's much more talent here in the 757 area, without a doubt. Okay. In that year that we were able to be successful, I would say that we had talent, but those kids, like I said, we combined a little bit of discipline and a toughness that kind of helped us get over the hump. And those kids have been together for so long, and remember, they didn't know how to lose. Because they had been an undefeated season, and they had played such a tough schedule. That year we played Montrose Christian, who was highly ranked, and we took them to overtime. We played Benedictine 2014, who had Ed Davis, who, went on to North Carolina and was a pro. We just played, we played such a tough schedule that, we were really prepared for anything in the postseason.
Right. Now, when you moved to Kecoughtan, and you got to come in, and I'm assuming that since your former assistant was there, that there wasn't too much difference in the philosophy, but you still had to sell yourself to the kids, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a big sell because they were used to being, even though he was there, he was only there for 1 year.
Right.
They weren't used to winning. Kecoughtan was not used to winning. I think they were used to just being the middle of the pack, maybe the bottom of the pack, and maybe
Right.
they have, they might win 1 or 2 games and upset a few teams. But we wanted to change the culture of and establish something of expectancy. We wanted them to expect to win on a night in and night out basis. We wanted them to expect to be at the top. We wanted the culture of the program to change, and not only that Kecoughtan was a place that would have valuable players that could go on and play
Right.
at the next level, and so that's something that I preached. That's something that I wanted to get to the basics. I just wanted to establish some core principles. One, that if you were going to play, you're going to play with passion. You were going to work hard. You were going to play together, and then you were going to be unbreakable. That's some of the intangible things
Right.
that I like to put into players or a program that leads to wins.
You must be getting tremendous support from the administration over there at Kecoughtan.
Yeah, well, when our first year there, under Mr. Baker was the principal. He hired me. He's an old basketball guy, so
Right.
he definitely gave
Yeah.
me all the support that I needed, and he was, confident that the program would change around. And then I had an interesting opportunity to work for a guy who I used to be his mentor in college, which was Rashad Wright.
How about that?
I was his mentor in college, and so that was a great relationship in which he just, not only helped foster the program and get it to where it is over the 2 years, and now we have a great leadership under Coach Martin, who's our athletic director, which continued, and the great principal that we have now.
Right. Okay, you talk a little bit about some of the kids, not that's coming up, but some of those that graduated that you feel so good about because they're continuing on.
Well, I have a few players that they continue on, whether they continue on to play, whether they continue on to be educated. And,
Right.
One is Dimitri Batten. Dimitri went on to Old Dominion. He came over to me his senior year, and we had an outstanding year that year. We went on, we made it down to the regionals, to the scope. But Dimitri is a good kid, good tough kid who basically just took the principles that I like to put on the court, and he started applying them to his life. And I think Dimitri has become a better person and a student as well. And we have a close relationship to this day. We call and we talk and we work out together. And I'm expecting great things from him this year at Old Dominion. But I think that's just the whole purpose of athletics, is to inspire kids to be a little bit more than what even they thought they can be. And so, we get caught up in the wins and losses, but that isn't the most important thing.
To me, the win is when the kid excels and then doesn't break contact with his coach.
When you can have a relationship with your players after they're done, that I think that means you had a successful season. And I have, my phone doesn't stop ringing with my players that I've coached after they play for us.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. You're a motivational speaker, and basically this is what you do full time until basketball season comes around. And that goes on the back burner.
Right, that goes on the back burner. In 2008, when I left T.C. Williams, I decided I've written 2 books, and I decided to take talking and motivating young people, but I also do businesses and things of that nature, and just inspiring people to be a little bit more, a little bit better. I think everybody needs inspiring. Everybody needs a coach. And I have my tagline that I started when I was coaching is that you're not unbeatable or on or off the floor, but you can become unbreakable. And I believe that. I never promised a kid that you're going to be unbeatable or that you're going to go undefeated in life. But I will promise him that you're going to learn the tools to become unbreakable. You're going to learn how to become resilient. You're going to learn how, not to be a victim. And so I talk about a lot of those things and setting goals for your life and different things that will help kids or businesses or whoever I'm motivating to become resilient and live an unbreakable life. And that's really the key to life.
Right. Well, one of the books, and you gave me a copy of it a year ago, and I read it, and it's really interesting because you was a guidance counselor, but these letters are from students who graduated to their parents, anonymous, and it talks about some of the feelings that they had that you probably wouldn't have known.
Right. It's actually, the idea came from my wife, maybe our third year when we were married, and I would go home and she'd ask me how's my day, and I would talk about basketball, and she would say, no, I want to know about counseling. And then I would go, wow, there's some interesting stories
right.
a lot of these kids have and impressions. And she said, well, some of the good ones, you have a deep bond with these kids, and some of my kids, I would give them my cell phone them and keep talking to them. You should actually have them express it, because I think the world and people will want to know. And so when they became seniors, some of the ones that were 18 and older, I asked them to express basically their feelings to their parents over their years of high school. Now that they're 18, what would you want them to know? What would you say to them, good or bad?
Right.
And so I began to collect a series of essays of graduating seniors, and basically, put them together. And I told them, well, one day I would release them. And I think in 2010, I think I released it, and it's
well, listen to me.
Listen to me, and basically right. That's it. Just an opportunity to just listen to what I have to say. And I think if we're slow to speak and quick to listen to our young people, we can figure out the things that they want.
Right. We're going to kind of wrap this thing up, but this has been awesome. I've learned more about you than I knew before, and I enjoyed talking to you before. But now you're going to go over Michelle Vini. We've had her in here. She does the spoken word over Simpson. You're going to go over there and do some stuff on that assembly.
Right. I travel around giving talks to high schools, middle schools, colleges. And so Michelle, she's our JV coach, so she has a little bit of inside with me. And she said, hey, Coach, I know you go all around and giving talks, but, on Thursday we're having a little rally, SOL rally, motivational rally for our kids at Sims. She was like, I've done some spoken word. We'll be honored if you would come over and give one of your talks to the kids. And I said, why not? It's a feeder school to my Kickertan. I'll definitely come over to Sims and motivate our kids to be their best and get ready for the SOL testing. And it's my pleasure. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, good. Well, appreciate you coming in. I want to thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sports Time. I want to thank my special guest, Ivan Thomas. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Until next time.